So with an understanding of how video can impact training, one of the things I did after seeing some of these high profile cases out there that I don't think were necessarily being addressed is I simply took it upon myself to create roll call training that I would put out on the ILEETA website as well as on my LinkedIn page to give a guide to those officers, those trainers out there who hadn't thought about doing it as a guideline of how it should be done, and questions, just simply questions to ask, which is you take the video, you take a look at the questions that I put in there, and then at the end I would say add in any other questions that you want. I could have gone as far as say, okay, stop it at this point and ask this question, and then go to this point, stop it here and ask this question. So it's just a simple continuation or an hour and 45-minute class on what I'm talking about in order to help trainers do that better and more efficiently with an understanding that it's pretty easy to do.
Hey, and welcome to this edition to the ILEETA Learning Lab. My name is Joe Willis. I'm the Deputy Executive Director for ILEETA. And today I'm here with Duane Wolfe, a longtime ILEETA member, Police One columnist. He's done a lot of great things. Duane's going to talk to us today about a class he's going to teach at the ILEETA Conference and Expo in March in St. Louis, March 16th through the 21st. Instant Impact, roll call training powered by video. Duane, talk to us about the importance of video and what it can bring to roll call training and what you're going to talk about at the conference.
Well, I think a couple of things right off the bat. Number one, we need to understand the power that video has. A couple of years ago, Police One asked me to start doing video analysis, sitting down, watching videos and breaking them down. In the first year that I did it, the top 7 stories, 3 of them were those tactical breakdowns that I did, which means cops are interested. Cops want to learn, cops want to see it, cops want to hear your opinion. So now we get to turn around and take a look at, as trainers, how do I put that into my department? And the key thing is you've got time each and every day if you're running a roll call. If you're not running a roll call, this class will talk about different ways of still getting that information out to them, depending on how you decide to package it. So the idea is we're going to try and make each and every day, or as many days as possible, a training day. And why? Because we all know that we can give you 8 hours, a solid block one day, and you're going to get a knowledge increase, and then it's going to rapidly fall off as time goes by. But if we take those same 8 hours and make it a 1 hour each day for 8 days, then the learning is going to be better, the retention is going to be better, the understanding is going to be better. The other thing that we're going to talk about in the video is this is not going to be an instructor-led. This is going to be student-led. There's going to be a lot of discussion. When we're engaging students in discussion, then they are becoming more involved in it. They're more likely to remember it. They get an opportunity to voice their opinion. They get to hear potentially other opinions on how things might want to be done. And we can take a look at those concepts in those areas and identify those areas that we need to build on, that we need to work on. So we're going to look at, number one, what do I do with the video? How do I use it? How do I edit it? How do I record it? And you're looking at a guy who on a ILEETA Live was not on camera that night because he forgot to take the tape off his camera. So if I can do it, if I can take a video and I can record it and I can edit it, you can too. And it's very short, sweet, simple concept, very easy to do. Surprise myself. I've also had to obviously stretch myself technically, but that's not a bad thing at any age, let alone at my age. So we're going to be looking at that as well as, the weaknesses of video. People may be aware that there has been a video of an incident recently in, Minnesota, with 4 different views, with all kinds of people having all kinds of different opinions about what they see. And I've been putting out on LinkedIn and on my personal page the weaknesses of video evidence itself as using to judge a use of force incident or any other incident. However, if we're going to use video, we have to understand what those weaknesses are in order to hopefully try and at least take them into consideration as we look at it and as we show it to our officers. The other thing is we always have that hindsight bias because we get to see the end. If we're doing the video training correctly, nobody's seen it before, we can circumvent that by not showing the whole thing first. But a lot of times we're talking about videos that have gone viral. Another concept is if we got videos that are viral for law enforcement, as a trainer, I should be looking at it, looking for the training points and making sure that we're covering those training points with our officers. Because if they're looking at it, if every cop in America is sitting in front of their screen watching this video, they're getting their own perception of what's happening. They're looking at it with their own set of eyes. And as a trainer, there are things that I want to point out, things that I want them to consider that they may not be considering. Again, if we've got a video of something that's perhaps not being done as best as it could be, if we're just letting them watch that, we're not addressing it as trainers, then again, if we're not dealing with it, then we're condoning it. So just one of the things we need to think about. The other thing with the video is storytelling is very powerful, and storytelling with a video adds the eyes. It's not just the imagination, and we can use those videos to provide powerful stories. One of the key things that I always try and talk about, and I know everybody that knows me is going to find this incredibly surprising. I'm going to talk about the human factors. Why do I want to talk about the human factors? Well, number one, it's how we operate and what's caused us to operate that way. Number two, as a profession, we have this nasty habit of tearing each other down based on what we heard about a call. Yeah, I heard so-and-so. Why didn't he do this? And why did he do it? And I will admit, as a rookie officer, I engaged in that behavior. And I engaged in that behavior up until the day that a story got back to me that people were saying that happened in a call that I handled, and it was nowhere close to what happened. So Duane said to himself, you know what, that didn't feel real good. I wonder how many people I've done that to. And I made a habit after that of going to the source and or not having an opinion about what happened because I wasn't there. As Brian always says, anytime you hear, well, what I would have done is, anything after that is bullshit because you weren't there and you don't have the biggest idea. And also understanding, as we're looking at officers, judging them from the ability to perform as human beings in that moment. Number one, for better understanding why they do what they do. Number two, for officers then to be less likely to harshly judge other officers if they actually understand the human factors. All right, if we take a look at the video out of Minneapolis, there's any number of human factors that are coming into play involving just the officer. All right, let alone the people watching a video, which is an imperfect, not exact reproduction of what it was that occurred, and then we're trying to make judgments from that. And my philosophy has been very simple as an expert: is I don't have an opinion until I see all the evidence. Unfortunately, there are all kinds of people out there who are jumping to conclusions. Now, obviously, if we're going to use a video in class, we don't always have that opportunity to wait for the outcome to come out before we discuss it. My viewpoint, whether I'm doing a video for Police One or if I was doing it for a class of officers, is I'm not there to judge them. I'm not there to say, well, this is dumb, this was wrong. It's simply to look at potential other changes that could be made in order to improve the performance. So if we don't take a look at it critically, then we can potentially run into those problems. And I'll talk about a couple of cases in my class regarding that.
I love it. And I'm hearing like so much right now on why video works. I do want to circle back to something you said just a second ago. It's not perfect and it's not an exact replication of what actually occurred. If there's anything that could be as close to a perfect replication, video would be that. Help us understand what you mean when you say that. I think I understand, but go on. Where are you going with that?
Well, with video, you've got all kinds of problems. Number one, and I've had 2 video classes that I've taken. I am not a video expert. There are other people that do it much better than I do. But because it's two-dimensional, so right off the bat, two-dimensional. So how do I judge distance? All right. What lens is the camera set at? Is the distance that I'm seeing in the video actually approximate to what I'm going to see as a human being? Most cameras, as we well know, don't do that. Think about the last time you went outside and said, oh, that's a beautiful sunset. That's a beautiful sunrise. I want to take a picture of that. And then you take out your cell phone. And how long do you spend screwing around with the phone, trying to get it set to see what your eyes see, only to find out that the camera never sees it. And when you do get it, it's like, those brilliant reds now are washed out because that's how it perceived it.
Yeah.
So we need to be aware of that when we take a look at it. I
And
think
the
it's just
perceived angle, and there's
sure.
so many other
Yep.
effects,
Yep.
and that's why
Yeah.
body camera and that is definitely going to be a source of some great roll call training. But the uh, height and angle of this two-dimensional resource that we have is different than the visual perception and depth and everything else that comes with human visibility. And so, as you were saying, kind of wrapping this all back to the beginning, human performance, factors of human performance are separate from the video itself, but that is the closest you're going to have to what the eye saw. And so, how do I, as a trainer, and roll call trainer, I'm a supervisor. Training is not what I do all day. And now I want to take advantage of what you're offering here. Where do you go for video sources that are the most effective for training?
Well, YouTube. I go back to when I was doing research back in the early 90s. I was going to take a look at officers involved in gunfights so I could take a look at their performance. That required that I sit down and grab my VHS tapes of uh, cops' wildest shootouts and a couple others that I had. Right now, if you go onto YouTube and you type in officer involved shootings, you will get thousands and thousands and thousands.
There was the
So you've
olden
got
days where we used to have to almost barter to get good video, right? Like there was, if somebody maybe had it, you couldn't get it. Or do you remember that incident that involved, and we would kind of search our network for somebody who actually had the video, and
right, and
now it's instantaneous. Yep.
you get the video that had been copied 14 times. You're
Mhm.
like, so now you've got that opportunity. And I mean, YouTube, there's a number, like a lot of times I use police activity because they just put the raw video up. They don't have any narrative over the top of it. However, I have found sometimes when I look at an incident, if I go and listen to somebody else's, there are things that they pick up that I might miss. So when I'm doing my analysis, a couple of times I've had to go back and reconsider what they saw that I missed because we're all human. Our eyes are going to be focused on a certain spot at a certain time, and we may miss something. One of the things that I've been pointing out in the Minneapolis video is how many of you saw the T-Rex? There's
Oh,
literally a
I was going to bring
T-Rex.
that up before you had a chance
Uh,
to. Yeah, I
yes,
mean,
there's literally
what a phenomenal. Now we're not looking for T Rexes
right,
in a normal video, right? But I think it's
right.
incredibly important that you pointed that out. That something as obvious as that. It's like the gorilla in the basketball drill, right? Count the passes. We've all seen that before, and people miss the person in the gorilla suit walking through. It's the same thing. And while it has zero bearing on the case, the reality is if you miss something as obscure as a T-Rex in someone's yard, there are chances you missed other important things.
Exactly. And it has to do how the camera's always in focus unless something's gone goofy with it, and I should say, your eyes don't work that way.
Well, you
It's
also have these perceptual biases that
sure,
cue us in to see the things that are relevant to the context, and if we don't realize, even if it is relevant to the case, relevant to safety, relevant to any number of things, human performance, whatever, if we're not cued into it, we just miss it for perception reasons as well, right?
right. And I'll admit, I never saw the T-Rex until I saw a still photo. Why? Because I was watching the officer. What's the officer doing? Because that was my focus, obviously, watching it,
Right.
trying to consider it from a use of force consideration.
And so we're talking here about a very specific high profile shooting that occurred, and everybody is talking about it in the news right now. But you've been doing largely use of force video review and analysis and using it for training and teaching others to use it. Is use of force, this is rhetorical, I guess, but I do want to hear your thoughts on it. The only place that video evidence is relevant to roll call training?
No, no, not at
Go
all.
on.
I mean, for instance, you could turn around and depending on the video, and of course, most of them are going to involve use of force. That's why they're out there. But if I've got a video of an incident involving officers, we can turn around and use that video. For instance, if we're responding to a armed robbery in progress or a burglary, we can take a look at it. We can take a look at our training. We can take a look at our department policy. We can take a look at okay, maybe where perhaps things have been done differently, positioned differently, which you're not necessarily going to see on video. What was the communication? How was that back and forth? Is there something we could have done better in order to resolve the situation differently than it was? What can we do to improve that? The other thing regarding video training is you've got those pre-packaged videos. For instance, we have our ILEETA sponsors, Caliber Press, putting out prepackaged when then thinking, where they take a video, they bring it to a point, they stop, and they ask that question. That's easy for a sergeant who doesn't know how to do that, to bring that in, take it to your DT people, use of force people, ask them, okay, what are the considerations we need to have here? What are the things we need to talk about? We also have the legal updates. You've got great companies like Anthony Bandiero with Blue to Gold, with little short segments on different things, simple things like any one of the case laws that's coming out, any one of the considerations coming out. I'm sure now, since Case versus Montana just came out, because we were talking about it before, that has come out regarding when officers can and cannot go into a residence without a warrant. That'll be coming out shortly to update the officers on the latest Supreme Court rulings and/or rulings in their area that they can find video on.
I love it. And I think so. One example that comes to mind for me is we often see First Amendment auditors going to courthouses and police stations and whatever else. And while there's a tremendous amount of Fourth Amendment activity that can be discussed here, right? Some search seizure, that sort of things, enforceability, all that. There's also a lot of just IPC, interpersonal communication skills, that can be trained in these moments. What are you noticing? I mean, just because you can doesn't mean you should, or that it's the most appropriate thing to do. And there's a really good conversation to be had from a leadership perspective in a lot of videos that oftentimes are looked at from either a constitutional law enforcement perspective or whatever, but sometimes it just comes down to our basic ability to interact. And when we see somebody else doing it and it's cringeworthy, what we're watching, it may be legal what they're saying, it may be kind of on the edge of right or wrong, but the reality is how they're presenting it in the moment. Just because they weren't trained, it doesn't mean I can't be trained by watching them. So you've mentioned this a couple of times. So we've talked about why video, selection of video, but let's talk briefly about the use of the video. You talk about bringing it up to a certain point and stopping it, not letting it play all the way through. Best practice from what I've seen. Kind of talk us through how that works and why it's important.
Well, as you go through it, you got to figure out what your decision points are, and you can pick the decision points that you want your officers to consider. Whichever one, for instance, if I'm doing one on pre-attack cues, to have the officers again refresh their memories on pre-attack cues, I can take a video where I know there's going to be assault. I can look for those specific cues. I can stop it right after the cue occurs. I can say, "What do you see? All right, what are you picking up on?" And then continue to let those display to the officers so they start recognizing them in order to put two and two together. Same thing on a drug and addiction stop. You can go through the questioning phase when you're getting false information from the suspect. You can stop, say, pause. Okay, do you think that's true or false based on how they say it? Why? Okay, what's going on here? Okay, well, I've got two alternating stories. The driver says they're cousins. The guy inside the car says they're friends. They're going to his aunt, but it's his friend. Now we got those discrepancies, which is going to start leading us to having the reason to continue to prolong the stop, as well as eventually get enough PC to do a search, or at least ask for consent, or get a canine on scene.
I love it. And what you just described there just is a whole investigative component. There's an entire officer safety elements. There's many different perspectives that, as a supervisor, if you're innovative, that one video could lead to some really good conversations, even stopping it at different points. This time with this audience, I play it because I want to see at what point it's reasonable to either frisk or search in this case, but over here I want to talk about whether or not it's reasonable to remove the person from the vehicle or whatever. I can use that same video for a variety of different things, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then the other thing, we can also use the video as a primer one day to come in the next day and practice the physical skills that we talk about in it. For instance, the study by Dr. Taylor with transitions with the taser. In that study, he found out that 70% of the officers put through the study had never practiced a taser transition in their career. Well, we take a look at that. We watch a video involving a taser transition. The next day, we can come in with tasers and blue guns, and we can practice those transitions for 10 or 15 minutes out in wherever the training is, outside in the vehicle bay, whatever is convenient works for you. So it's not only using it just to watch, we can also use it as a primer for our officers to take a look at those skills that perhaps we haven't practiced lately, in order to keep those physical skills ready on a regular basis. If you know, they made Duane Wolfe King of the World for police training during a roll call at least once a week or so, officers would be taken out to be given a laser pistol, and they would demonstrate their ability to draw, present, fire, and hit a target, whether it's live or paper, in order to make sure that officers are continuing to maintain that level of proficiency. One of the studies I talk about in my class 2 years ago, the task was to draw and shoot a target on a whiteboard 21 feet away. A very large, well, a startling amount of officers missed the target at 21 feet on demand, cold from the holster. That demonstrates to me a problem. There was also a number of officers who were unable to get the gun out of their holster on demand under that very small level of stress. That indicates a large training gap, because those physical skills need to be revisited just like the other skills we have on a regular basis in order to keep them sharp, so officers are performing at their peak based upon the time and energy we have with them.
And okay, so let's pause on that. We're kind of coming to the end of the time we're going to spend together today, but I am really interested in this, the time we're going to spend with them. So we often look at the ILEETA conference, everything the ILEETA as an association offers as developing the trainers, the adjuncts, the academy instructors, the educators at the colleges. But in reality, many of the folks who are ILEETA members come to the conference and will benefit from even this conversation are supervisors who are accidental trainers, right? They are trainers because of their role, and their job is to train and lead and mentor their people, right? We get such a limited amount of time, 20 minutes till it matters sometimes, right? Like, that's what I get. And if I use that time wisely, video can be a big part of it. But what would you say to those who are doing roll call as a simple pass on, here's the bolos, that kind of stuff, get out there, do your best, stay safe, make it home tonight type roll calls? What would you say to them about that couple of minutes till it matters, how to use this training time? Why is it so important?
Well, I was watching Scott Hughes on a podcast not too long ago, and he was talking about roll call training, and hence the meme on the Facebook page that I put out today. He said that most roll calls are 30 minutes. That's 6 minutes of cop stuff and 20 more minutes of people bitching about stuff we don't have any control over. So there's some time there we could put to better use than sitting around complaining about those things we can't control, and working on those things that we can.
Well said. I couldn't say it any better. I think so. With that, Duane, as we kind of come to the end of our time together, you know as well as I do that the ILEETA conference brings in well over 120. In fact, we have 138 sessions this year, which is among the highest. And we did it a little different. So sometimes this year we only have like one-off sessions, which is a unique thing. Some people doing 145s that are only doing one session, but with up to 20 other sessions that are lined up against yours or others. If I'm sitting on the fence, how do I know this is the class for me to be in? And again, you're a humble man, I know this, so you're not going to do a lot of bragging here, but what would be the reason I attend your class?
Well, the reason I named it Instant Impact, because you have that ability to have an impact on your officers that day, on whatever the subject matter is that you cover. Now, how many days a week is that? How many weeks is that a year? How many hours is that? So if you spend 10 minutes a day, 5 days a week, that's 40 some hours of training additionally to what they're going to get normally. As a trainer on the departments I work, we would get together twice a year and we would train. That was my contact as far as training, was those 2 times a year. And I think that's probably fairly similar for a lot of departments. This way, we have that impact, we have that contact on as much of a daily basis as you decide you want to make it. And this will give you the foundation of how to do that. And to give you a guide to make it your own, to create your own, and to truly continue in what we truly want to do, which is make our officers better each and every day towards the goal that we want them to achieve.
Awesome. Well, Duane, thank you so much for spending this time with us today. I definitely am looking forward to this conference. I enjoy any time I get to spend with you, but I'm looking forward to seeing you in March, and as so many others are, I know. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are on the edge about whether or not to attend the ILEETA conference, this is just one great example of the sort of training that takes place there. As I mentioned, 138 total classes, well over 450 hours of training available, 17 instructor level certification classes this year. So definitely going to be a conference to remember. So thank you all so much. We'll see you next time.